Cool. So it is Friday. We have had 2 days in a row now of some pretty poor quality footage. 2 days ago, the little doohickey I got fell down, just stared at my pants, is my YouTube safe word to say, my pants for a second. Then yesterday, the entire thing fell down, and y'all had to watch, those few of you who do watch, had to watch super up close and personal with my hand next to my face the entire time. So we've got that thing as pressurized as it can be up against my window. So we should hopefully be good for a day of good content of the 4 videos that are going up this week. So at least a 50% success rate for this week is what we're hoping for. As we have had some very faulty equipment this week. But we are now headed home. This is our 1 week of the month that we are not traveling. 1 weekend of the month. Arnold last week. Next week, I've got 1 athlete coming from Alaska, 1 just coming down from northern North Carolina for a meet in Charlotte. 1 of them just for fun, the other trying to qualify for junior nationals. Week after, I'm set to do a powerlifting meet in Charlotte. Still have not fully decided if I'm doing that or not. It's the whole thing. Powerlifting, pretty fucking boring. I thought if I put it on the calendar, I'd stay committed. Not so much. Kind of back into weightlifting at the moment. But then also, it's 24-hour weigh-ins. So I would have to go to Charlotte the night prior between 4 and 5:30 p.m., which means I would have to leave work slightly early. If I left at 2 right when I'm technically done, I would not be getting there until 5:30 basically on the dot, and not including traffic there. So we'll see, because then that means I gotta leave early, gotta get a hotel, all that jazz. Not really feeling it. My coworker who's gonna do it with me pulled out, so we will see if we follow through with that competition or not. May build a platform this weekend. Looking at doing that. Cost of materials $170, delivery fee of $100, so $270 to have it delivered, like $220 if I go rent a U-Haul and go pick it up myself. So we'll see if I end up following through on that or not. But getting into it here, most programs, if you're a program, coach people one-on-one, most of your programs will look relatively the same and should look relatively the same. However, the difference lies in the athlete. The difference lies in the communication with the athlete. It lies in how you act with the athlete, how you talk with the athlete, how you coach the athlete. Most of the programming will be the same, but how that actually goes into the athlete and what actually happens from there and how it actually is communicated, that is where the big difference will lie. Ooh, they're doing some controlled burns here over in Special Forces area today. Force is on fucking fire right now, yeah. Ooh, yeah, controlled burn going on. Huh. Cool. It just means there's going to be smoke in my house for the rest of the day. But yeah, so looking at program, every coach has a templated structure that they program off of. You don't just get a new athlete and you don't just reinvent the wheel every single time you have a new athlete. No, you have a general template of how you coach and how you program. So you already have a general structure that is similar across athletes. So already individualized is individualized to a certain extent because, again, there is some sort of templated portion there. And let's just use an easy example here. Let's say you have 2 athletes who are training up for the exact same meet, because I have this exact case. I had 2 athletes that did American Open Finals, who then also did American Open 1. And then prior to that, one of them did Carolina State Championships, the other did not compete. She did AO2 prior to that. But they basically had the same competition schedule for the past few months. They went from a 12-week period getting ready for AO finals, and then immediately into another 12-week period getting ready for AO1. So already looking at this individual programming, you have a base template, all right? And then in our example here, you have the exact same week structure, or the exact same distance to competition, the exact same weeks of competition leading up. So already, like, a lot of our individualization there has shrunk down a little bit. Now, I still believe in individualized programming, not arguing against that, but once we start to break that down then, so your progression, probably going to be relatively similar because that's your template. Your exercise selection, that one is going to be very individualized based on what the athlete needs. Rep allocation, probably going to be pretty standard across the board just because you're getting into that competition prep phase. So you're probably focused more on the lifts than you are the strength. So already there, all right, little less individualized, a little less personalized and unique. Unique is probably a better word because it's still individualized, a little less unique, little less differences between. And then we look at competition prep, and then the only real changes in that is how the athlete responds, but then really what day they compete. That's going to be a very big differentiator on when they're going to have their last heavy session, when they're going to hit warm-ups, all that jazz. Along my line, I have all of my athletes do the same plyometric warm-up. One, just because we do change it every week, so it gives everyone a new stimulus, but then two, it also allows for that competition to take place, so that everyone can try to challenge themselves, beat each other's PRs, da-da-da. So we're looking at these two athletes. We're looking at them. They have the exact same weekly build-up or weekly structure leading up to the Arnold, going to the same meet, same distance apart. Let's even say they're the same weight class and roughly the same strength numbers, which is fairly true. They're a couple weight classes apart, and there's about a 20 kilo difference in their total. 20 kilo difference, 15-ish kilo body weight. So, like, not insanely different types of athletes, both females as well. The difference doesn't lie so much in the programming, where, like I said, the programming is different. Like, it's not just a cookie cutter program. There is differences in exercise selection, how things are structured, all of that jazz. So there is still going to be the difference. The real difference lies in how you approach that athlete. The communication styles, the relationship with them, that is really going to be where the big difference is. That's why when you look at big team programs that do just a club program, like you have just one program for everyone can still make progress in that gym, and everyone's doing the exact same program. That's because you have that in-person atmosphere. Everyone's doing the same program, but then you have the competition aspect, you have the team environment, but then how you are coaching each athlete is going to be very different. So you may have a program that is not 100% built specifically for you, but that's part of the coach's job, is to cater to each athlete differently in their communication and relationship styles to be able to get the most out of them. So club programs and just group programming can work very well. A lot of the progress you're going to see is going to lie in your coach. You will see significantly more progress, in my opinion, with a shitty program, but a coach that you 100% believe in, versus a amazing, super, like, perfect program for you with a coach that you don't believe in. Just the simple fact of having buy-in and having trust is going to have the athlete put a different level of intensity and a different level of effort behind the program. If you are doing a program and you don't like your coach, you don't trust your coach, well, then that also implies you don't trust that program they put together. And if you don't trust it, you're going to question it. You may go off program some days, you may change some things, and you're just constantly going to be second guessing and not in a mindset that is going to be apt for making progress. So the bigger thing of, can I find a coach? Can I find a gym that has the best programming in the world? I would say that is a secondary thing to look for compared to just, can I find a coach that knows how to talk to people? Can I find a coach that I vibe with? Can I find a coach that has good relationships with their athletes, not just from their word, but getting their athlete's word for it too, that they're actually like a good person. Yeah, that's really it. So like, programming in general is a very important thing. However, I would say personally, I am much better at the people and relational aspect than I am at the programming. I still do think I'm quite good at programming, but I would say if I am a quote unquote expert in anything, I wouldn't say I am, but the thing that I am strongest at is communicating, is building that relationships. That is what I base almost everything off of. I have actually never worked a job that was not relational based, whether it be bartending, whether it be personal training, now strength and conditioning coaching with the Army, whether it be Olympic weightlifting coaching, building businesses, things like that. Every single job I have ever had has been people facing, has been customer service related. So all I know in my entire working career has just been how best can I build a relationship with someone to give them the best customer service possible and the best experience possible to then make money, more or less, but then to get the results that they are looking for to then make everyone happy. So really, I would say, like, and I'm sure my athletes would agree with this. I don't know if they'd agree that I'm better at relationships than programming, but I believe they would all agree that I am very good at the relationship aspect, because I just take a lot of pride in that. I believe that that is the most important thing when it comes to choosing a coach. It's not like I work for Power and Grace. One of our things is, hey, like we are very science based. Like we do a lot of shit with a lot of thought behind it. We program very, very well. However, I don't think that that is like my shining star that I can hang my hat on, that I am one of the best programmers in the country. I don't think I am one of the best people who can program for weightlifting in the country. However, I do believe that I am one of the best coaches in the country at building that relationship and being able to get the best out of my athletes. Because again, if you have an athlete who does not love you, who does not trust you, who does not fully 100% believe in the decisions you make, you're not going to be able to get the most out of the athlete because there is not the relationship there to get it. Specific example here, Jessie King, one of my female athletes, I believe, yes, American Open Finals. She hit her entry total going in was her last PR of 120. She walked away with a 128 kilo total there. A very large increase in her total, especially for a Masters athlete who had been competing for quite a while prior to that point. One of the things she said to me after the meet was she walked up to her third attempt clean and jerk not thinking she could make it at all. Like she walked up scared, like this is a, again, 8 kilo increase in her total, so like big fucking weights we were taking. Told me after that she walked up nervous, but then what I had said to her when she was walking up to the platform, I said something along the lines of, I believe in you, believe in yourself, something like that. And that immediately flipped the switch in her mind, and then boom, nerves were gone, she was ready for it, she went up and smoked the shit. So it was nothing in like we had this perfect scientific prep up for the meet. Now granted, like she was peaked very well, like she was prepped very well for that meet. So again, there is a lot of credence to having the science there, having the programming behind it. But when it actually comes to game day, whether you hit 90% or 94% a week out is not going to matter nearly as much as if you have that relationship with your athletes and you have the ability to get the best out of them. And that's not necessarily just being there, being a hype man. It's telling them bad news, talking shit to them, like actually like being upfront honest, like, hey, I don't think you have this in you today. Like we had that example at the Arnold last week. Amber, one of our athletes, we wanted to open at 63. We had declared 60. I went back to her as we were warming up. I'm like, hey, we're going to stay at 60. She's like, yeah, I think that's a great idea. Like, I'm fully on board with that. And that's because we had that open relationship there where she knew that I had her best intentions at heart. She fully believed and trusted in my decisions. And when we talked it through, she's like, yeah, I agree with that. Like, I do think that is the best course of action. We're going to go with that. And because of that choice, she ended up making that snatch, went 2 for 3 in snatches, 5 for 6 overall, and had a very successful day and left that meet, in her own words, feeling the most confident she ever has, increasing as over this past year that we've worked together. So the biggest thing to look for in a coach is someone who is good at programming, obviously. Like, again, you will make more progress, in my opinion, with an amazing relationship with your coach and a shitty program than the opposite. However, you don't want that situation. Just because you can make progress in a situation does not mean that's a situation you want to be in. So you want to look for someone who is good at programming and who has a track record of, hey, I have taken athletes to these high levels. Like I have that coach now has proof, hey, I know how to do weightlifting programming to get athletes to high levels. That is very important. However, I do think that is a secondary thing to look at compared to how do you talk with your athletes? How do you act around your athletes? How do you treat your athletes when they succeed? How do you treat your athletes when they fail? What is your relationship like? What is your communication style like? What is your coaching style like? Things of that nature. Like that was one of the things that we as a staff talked about in our staff meeting yesterday after coming back from the Arnold was there are some very interesting ways that coaches talk with their athletes. And that was one of the things actually one of my athletes pointed out while we were there. She's like, this coach just said this to the athlete after. Like, oh my God, what the hell? I'm like, I would say something like that, like in a joking manner after you stepped off, like giving you a little shit. He's like, he was not joking. He sounded serious. It was like a little bit degrading to the athlete. Like they just missed and it was like, or I think they made the lift and it was pretty ugly. And he just straight up said like, that was not a good lift. Like, what was that? Like something like that. It's like, okay, like that's clearly probably not someone that you want to have as a coach. That is very common in the industry though, because a lot of people get into exercise, then they dive into the science side of it. And if you've ever spoken to someone who is a PhD or a scientist, the vast majority of people who do science at the actual like research level, they don't know how to talk to people. So you get a lot of people that go into strength and conditioning, go into coaching, who are very good at the application and at the science of exercise science part, but cannot communicate worth shit. And it does not matter how much you know if you can't communicate it. Look at Carl Sagan, look at Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neither of those two men are like the top of their field in astrophysics. They're not like the leading researchers. Neither of those people were like the leading researchers making the most cutting edge breakthroughs in their fields. The reason those two were so prominent, one in their day and one still currently, is because they were the best communicators of that science at the time. They were not the most scientific, they were not the most researched, they were not the most cited. They were the best at the communication aspect. So I, again, would argue that you are going to be better off finding a coach who is good at programming, but who excels and whose primary, like, best feature is building that relationship and communicating with the athletes. And that overall will put the athlete in a better position to get the best out of them. Yeah, that's about it.